Hi, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to this webcast with James Luscombe. We wanted to talk about a subject that a lot of us talk about in the industry. We've called it the UK PT problem. Now, one of the things I really pride myself on, and I know James does, is we really look at the standards of our industry. We're really trying to push them up. And we've called it the UK PT problem for a reason. We're not trying to put down what's going on. In fact, what we're going to do in this webcast is look at solutions for us all to collectively work together. Wouldn't you agree, James?
I would certainly agree, Teresa, and I think we do have a PT problem, as we will be discussing, and it's more so rather than highlighting the problem, it's also looking at what we can do collectively as a sector to improve it. And I look forward to discussing this with you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. It'll be a joy. I know what we've got planned. So, like I say, it's about us collectively coming together, isn't it? So let's think about where you think, with the knowledge that we know that anybody coming to the sector is really trying to do a great job. They have often got a lot of passion. So I want to know where you feel the problems lie currently in our sector.
Yes, indeed. I mean, obviously, I don't think I'm alone in what I'm about to say, but I feel we do have a PT problem in the country, and that problem is highlighted by numerous statistics that show that PTs do not currently have a very long lifespan within the sector. We're seeing newly qualified PTs enter the sector, and then a number of months later, they're leaving the sector. And often the reason for that is they haven't been able to necessarily achieve the anticipated success. However, we should also always ask the question, why? Why is that? Why is it that someone, an aspiring PT, has got the qualification, gone into the workplace, all these fantastic ideas, and then left a few months later because it hasn't worked out as planned? And a lot of that can be traced back to the level of education and competence and work preparation that they've received in their initial training. Now, this combined with the fact that perhaps expectations are not being managed correctly is meaning that new aspiring personal trainers are going into the workplace with lofty expectations, but perhaps below par skill sets, and the two combined are then causing this extraordinarily high turnover of staff in the sector, because PTs may not be fully equipped to do the job they need to do in order to meet anywhere near the expectations that they have. Now, obviously, this is not for everyone entering the PT. I'll just go on record to say we have some fantastic PTs in the country. We have some fantastic training providers in the country. So my comments are not aimed at the sector as a whole. It's more so a fragment of it, which we're calling the PT problem. But unfortunately, that fragment is getting bigger and bigger. So we see more training providers emerge. We are seeing variations in quality, and that is then translating to variations in quality in the actual workplace. And there lies the PT problem.
Right. Oh my God, you summarized that so well. Thank you so much. And I think, through your experience of how long you've been in the industry, right, and you've worked in quality, can you tell me more about the sort of quality provision in our industry? Is it, I know we're all trying to collectively push that up, and you've acknowledged that there is a sort of a fragment of our industry that perhaps doesn't have the same quality provision. Can you make comment on what you feel as a whole on the industry to do with quality provision?
I mean, quality is very much my background. I had a lot of experience working in further education, in quality management, and to be honest, at Study Active, quality drives everything that we do. It always has done, always will do. It's one thing we refuse to compromise on. Quality is always at the forefront. I know that's easily said, anyone could say that, but we obviously like to think we do a good job of delivering that. But for me, for Study Active, quality is not just box ticking. It's not just has someone got through the criteria to pass a qualification. I mean, yes, that is an element of quality, of course. Of course, people need to meet the criteria, but for me, it's bigger than that. For me, it's like, what is that learner's experience throughout the qualification that they study? But more importantly, what impact does that have on that learner
Yes.
and the wider sector once they graduate? So is that learner just leaving with a piece of paper because we tick some boxes, or are they actually leaving with a skill set which enables them to transform their career by going into the sector and having the skills to make that impact? And for us, that's where quality is much more than just ticking boxes. And we demonstrate that by liaising with lots of industry stakeholders,
Mm.
employers, personal training companies, gyms throughout the UK. We want to always understand, what is it? What is the skill set that someone needs when they come into the sector? And what we're finding is, don't get me wrong, the PT qualifications are a must. Of course, someone has to do a personal training qualification, but it's a little bit like passing a driving test. A driving test means that you can legally drive a car. But qualifying as a PT means you can operate as a PT. But we feel there's more to it than that. There's more we can be giving them. So when they leave their education, they've got more than just a piece of paper. They can go on and make an impact. And for us, that's a bigger picture of quality that we like to factor in.
Love that. And I'm just going to come back to something earlier that you said that I thought was really accurate, that perhaps some people coming into the industry have a sort of lofty kind of idea. And perhaps maybe people coming into the industry, their expectations are not being managed. What are your thoughts on that? How do we kind of prepare the PT for the real life of the PT? Because of course, any training provider wants to, sell their courses, right? And we want to, sort of speak to the dreams and the visions of the person wanting to come into being a PT. But it's a bit like when you say about the driving license, right? You tend to learn to drive in a car that's not a Bugatti. Do you know what I mean? And I suppose that's the lofty kind of thoughts that and I've seen it with qualificate when I used to be a tutor. People would come in and they'd think that it would be easy to do the qualification, but that they would instantly be successful. So can you comment on those sort of lofty, and I get it because people have a lot of I don't know, wishes and dreams, but how can we help manage those expectations as training providers?
I think a comment you made there, Teresa, is very true. Ultimately, training providers are businesses, and obviously, a business needs to sell to create income for the business. But I think that selling, it should be ethical selling, it should be consultative selling, it should be an honest conversation. And I think what we're perhaps seeing in the sector is that sales is clouding the correct advice given to someone at the start of the learning journey. And what I mean by that is, yes, it sounds very attractive for someone to be told that they're going to be earning like £80,000 in their first year, and the qualifications are going to take 3 weeks to do, and then you're straight into the 80 grand. So it's not true. So what's the point in saying that in the first place? And we like to think at Study Active, the conversation that anyone inquiring will have with us is an honest conversation. We will be very honest about what the journey is going to be, how it's hard work, how it takes time to achieve the qualification, how it takes even longer to establish yourself as a PT,
Mm.
how a lot of people start off as a PT on the side whilst doing a full-time job elsewhere and gradually build up. We like to think a more honest conversation takes place. Now,
Yes.
this doesn't mean that there's a ceiling on what that individual can achieve. They could still go on. I mean, maybe one day they will be earning like high salaries or high income from personal training. I genuinely hope that our graduates do push themselves onwards. But I think it's important that they understand the expectations from the start and they manage those and they receive that grounding of what this sector is and what it isn't. And I
Yeah.
always say to people, of course you can make money from this. Of course you can do very well and have a successful career that you're proud of and earn some really decent money, but it's not going to come overnight. It needs to be work with that. But I think, unfortunately, I'm seeing it more and more in the sector that the sales is clouding the advice.
Yes.
And rather than giving someone that honest upfront kind of synopsis of what the start of their career may look like, which is what we do, and I know other providers do the same. unfortunately, some are saying the opposite, and they are fueling these significantly high expectations, which, to be honest, are just not achievable. And I think that is where there's a massive mismatch between what someone can achieve once they start in the sector. So I
Yeah.
think that's one thing that is fueling the issue, how sales is being clouded, or clouding the correct advice at the start. And we are seeing it more and more. And one thing I really campaign for is for providers to be honest at the start, to have that honest chat with an individual and make them aware of managing their expectations as to what the journey is going to look like. But I think we're seeing variation in how that is being rolled out throughout the sector.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. Yeah. So what solutions have you found then in sort of managing quality? I think I think we both recognize maybe there's, not everybody has the same level of how would I say, care on this. I think, I have a fine eye for detail, right? So quality for me was a really, I didn't think I'd get into it, honestly. As someone at school, I thought, no, I'm not going to be the person who loves proofreading, who loves, quality assurance, but it is something genuinely I love and I know I'm good at. And some people don't have the same care for it, right? So they would happily, for example, I might write something and I see a glaring, obvious mistake in my spelling. Not everybody has the same care or ability or don't think it matters, right? And that's absolutely fine. So I think you and I come from a place of that natural, innate, eye for detail. So some people perhaps don't have that sort of setting set at that level. So, but we obviously, as training providers, have a requirement to look after quality. So what are your thoughts on people's different levels of quality, recognizing its importance? Can you comment on the sort of solutions you've found, because you've done this for a long time, right, in quality?
Indeed, yes. I say quality is what drives everything that we do at Study Active, and has always been our philosophy. But I think the word quality, it's like it means different things to different people.
Yeah.
And I think following my long career in the FE sector in further education, it certainly for me, quality is a continuum, a spectrum. It's a big kind of diverse kind of continuum of achievement and success and milestones and KPIs. I think, however, quality is sometimes misinterpreted as just being a tick in the box, as I alluded to earlier. Now, what I perhaps mean by that is, yes, there are minimum standards to achieve a PT qualification. And if we say to all our learners, yes, this is the standard you need to get to, we're ticking that box, then we're not really delivering a quality strategy. All we're doing is ticking a box to get them through the qualification. What I like to see with quality is you've got your differentiation spectrum. Yes, for some learners coming to you, it may be about just getting them over the line to achieve a qualification. If for whatever reason, they're at that stage of the differentiation spectrum, but you're going to have others which are going to be capable of so much more than just getting over the line. And that's where we can encourage and motivate and push for them to do better. So they're not just meeting the minimum standards, they're actually doing a bit better. I mean, I guess it's in the fitness sector, it's like it's usually pass fail. And perhaps that's a flaw of things, that we can't award grades for a PT qualification. It's long been suggested to me, and I've long thought that it would be nice if there was kind of a pass merit distinction criteria, because at the moment it's pass fail and that's it. But we try to see through that, and we try to say to our learners, yes, the minimum is here. This is the minimum to get through. However, we want to take you up that ladder. And for some people, it may be kind of in the middle of the range, but for some, it may be right at the top of the range. We want to really, really upskill our learners so we can push them as far as we can and give them that opportunity to push themselves, progress themselves, develop their knowledge, not just getting through at the minimum criteria. I mean, I say it a little bit like, running a marathon. It's like if you're a fitness coach and you're training a group of people to run a marathon, are you happy just the fact that everyone has completed it? Okay,
Yeah.
maybe you are. Maybe you are. I mean, that's an achievement. I mean, I've run a marathon myself. I can tell you it's no easy thing to do. But are we looking to just perhaps walk it and, get over the line and that's it, we're happy? Or are we looking, whilst for some people getting over the line it may be their achievement, but surely others, they're wanting to get over in a reasonable time. Others are wanting to really set themselves a goal, a target, and train hard and get over that. And for others, they're going to want to do really well. They're going to want to start setting personal bests and local records and things like that. And as a fitness coach, that's what we would do. We would push people to the top of their ability. So in the education sector, I truly believe we should be doing the same. We're not just getting people over the line. We're not just getting people to complete. We should be taking them through that differentiation spectrum and leading them towards their fullest potential, for them to get a personal best as such in terms of their learning. And I think that's, for me, where quality is. It's the whole differentiation spectrum rather than just a kind of minimum criteria. Bar is set here, that's it. And again, don't get me wrong, there are very good educators out there that adhere to that. But I think what we are seeing more and more is a churn where providers may be happy just to say, well, this is the bar, you've got through it, that's it. And that in itself is fueling the PT problem.
Fine. Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. Yeah. So I think there's genuine providers out there who are slightly missing the mark. Not, they're trying their hardest, and with, a huge amount of experience and obviously a passion for quality, James, for you, what sort of solutions, or where can people turn where they feel they may have missed the mark or they're missing the mark? Because I do believe that there's a lot of people that sort of are like, what do I do to get better? How we know PTs can turn to a network, they can do more ongoing training, but what about training providers? Where did they go for support without perhaps revealing a feeling of lack, if that makes sense?
Well, yes. I mean, I think there are lots of new training providers out there who are in it for the right reason and they're trying to grow and do things the right way. But it may well be that, it's the awareness that perhaps they're lacking. I mean, when I founded Study Active, which was 12 years ago, I was very fortunate that I had the best part of a decade's experience working in a further education college. But a lot of people that would start up a training provider perhaps are just good personal trainers who don't have that educational experience. So I think it's about anyone looking to improve to actually look at what product are you producing, what is the end result. Talk to your graduates. What are they doing? What are they up to? Where are they? What keeps them awake at night with their career? Was there anything that we missed when you were studying with us? That's the kind of questions I'd be asking. If I was like a young training provider, I'd want to know what impact are we making. And I'd encourage any new training provider to look past the achievement of a qualification. And what I mean by that, it's no good saying that, yes, we've had X amount of people achieve their qualification. So what? What are they doing? What impact are they making? Speak to them, talk to them. Has it worked out? If so, what are you doing right? Keep doing it. If not, what could you do better? Go back and improve. And I think it's a continuous feedback loop. I mean, I'm a great believer in continuous improvement. None of us are ever the finished article, ever. We always have room to learn, to develop. I learn things and develop every single day. And I'm sure you do too, Teresa, and I'm sure lots of our fellow sector professionals do. There's no such thing as the finished article. And I think that continuous feedback, continuous improvement, looking what impact we're making, that's a key driver for success. And a very simple model to implement as well, merely by just keeping track of what have your graduates gone on and done, what is your end result.
Love that. And actually that's going to take us to our next question. So on to our next question then, James. Many people seem to be very quick to remark on standards dropping, and potentially there's this idea that things can remain static. So I think it's easy to sort of comment on things in negative ways, and we've talked about us working collectively together. So have you got thoughts on that? Whose responsibility is it? Should we be building one another up? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think, everyone is in this for the right reason in the sector. And, there are many organizations and individuals that are in this for the right reason. we need to, rather than highlighting the problem, which, we're all very good at highlighting the problem, we need to collectively think, what can we do about it? What can be done? What it's our responsibility. We are the kind of the fitness sector or the fitness education sector. What is it we can do to help our industry with this? And I think it comes by the main thing is the thing we need to look at is setting the expectation, the standard. What should a PT look like in the UK?
Mhm.
And I think as a sector, we need to look past a piece of paper. We need to look past that someone's produced a PT certificate, and we need to start looking further as to, okay, well, what's this individual's like history? What's their current knowledge? Can we do a little skills test on them? Can we invite them in for, a bit of an audition, if you like, as to, how are they on the gym floor? What is their knowledge? Look at their CPD. Have they done additional CPD with their qualification? Have they signed up for professional memberships? Have they taken an interest in themselves? Who did they study with? What kind of experience was their studying? What they did? So perhaps digging a little bit deeper as to what
Mhm.
is our expectation, rather than a long queue of people waving a piece of paper and the sector saying yes, that's okay, because clearly it's not okay. We need to think more about this. Um, I think employers can play a role here by not settling for second best. And I mean, we Study Active works with employers up and down the country, and we send our graduates through, and we get very good feedback. Fantastic, long may it continue. But if an employer was not happy with us or any other provider, it'd be good for them to be vocal, to say that, to feedback, and rather than perhaps highlight that people have left the industry, to give some feedback, and so then the providers can then collectively improve. Because if something's missing, it could be, I don't know, a knowledge of nutrition, for example. It could be the nutrition knowledge is lacking. I think that then needs to be fed back to providers,
Mhm.
so something can be done about that. So I think there needs to be a continuous feedback loop. But ultimately, I think this is where I know CIMSPA are trying to do some excellent work in the sector. I mean, CIMSPA are going through training providers, endorsing them. And as you know, Teresa, then awarding different quality ratings, enhancing being the top standard. And obviously, we've been through that at Study Active. I know FitPro's been through that as well. Both have achieved it, enhancing standard, and that's great. But I'd like to see employers really value that, and perhaps employers look beyond the piece of paper and instead perhaps look at the fact that, okay, this individual has studied at a CIMSPA enhancing provider. That gives us peace of mind, that gives us confidence.
Mm.
So I think
Yeah.
really it's setting that expectation about what a ready-made PT should look like, seeing past just that piece of paper.
Yeah.
And perhaps then, I mean, I know Simpson, as I said, they're doing some fantastic work with the sector, but to get that joined up approach so that the employers out there, all the gym chains are understanding, what the different Simpson quality standards mean, understanding that enhancing being the top one, the very high quality providers, and perhaps just raising the bar of acceptance there. So instead of looking at perhaps getting higher numbers through, perhaps looking at, how can we get the right numbers of PTs through, the right people through the doors as such.
Yeah.
But I think that's something collectively, as I said, that involves the employers, the gyms, it involves the regulators, like CIMSPA, it involves the providers and educators like us. It also involves the individual, the personal trainers, the students, to take it upon themselves to reach that certain quality accolade, that level. So I think that's we need to take the bar up a notch as such. So the new normal for acceptance of a PT is at a certain standard. Different things we look for rather than just that piece of paper. But don't get me wrong, that is a very strategic approach and not an overnight fix. It's not a kind of, oh yes, let's do that. This is going to take some doing. But I think that's the way to go about it. And I do know that Simpspo are making great strides towards that as well. But yes, I think that's my thoughts on a collective approach that the sector could be
Yeah.
taking
No,
to fix the problem.
I like that, James. I'm just thinking that obviously, you and I have a really good understanding of who's who in the industry, and we've been in it for a long time. And a lot of the time people coming into the industry who want to be qualified, they, sometimes there's so many providers to choose from. It's like, where do I turn, and stuff like that. So I kind of, it's good to have that reminder from you that about the employer side of things. And if people within our industry are a little sometimes confused of what's what and who's who, I can understand an employer of, let's say, a gym chain sort of just thinking, well, if they've got their level 3 PT, they must all be the same, because you and I understand the idea of standardization and that people should meet this, sort of standard. But the reality is often different, isn't it? And so that's a tough job for an employer, because, how do they check that out? It's it's just it's made me think of another webcast that we can do potentially.
Exactly. I think
It's
it
a
is
big
a
thing.
whole kind of, a lateral discussion that we could be having there,
Yeah,
to educate and empower employers to know exactly what to look for. One, looking for a recognized qualification, but two, looking beyond that, as we said, when we're talking about things like, was the provider FITPRO endorsed? Was the provider an enhancing rated provider? Understanding what that means.
yeah,
And I guess it's a little bit like, say you went for a job in a law firm, for a career in law, they'd perhaps look at your law degree, and they'd perhaps look, okay, what university did you study with? Who was the staff that taught you here? What classification did you get for your law degree? I think in that particular sector, there's a lot more due diligence as to what's happened, rather than a law firm saying, oh, there's a law degree,
sure.
let's move forwards. There's perhaps a lot more scrutinisation there. And I think if we can collectively in the fitness sector educate the wider sector for what to look for, I think that is the key to it. But you are quite right, Teresa. This could be a whole separate podcast we could be doing
Yeah,
on that very,
exactly.
very topic.
But it's really interesting as well, because the beauty of coming into the fitness industry is that you may have, let's say, for example, you've been working in law, right? The beauty of our industry is that you can step into a new role, and you could, for example, I started when I was 19. I had my first qualification, and kudos to those people, getting their first qual and coming into it. It's in a way, like, if they've achieved that, that requirement of a level 3 cert, right? In a way, it'd be lovely, wouldn't it, as an employer to think, oh, also great that they've got 20 years of experience as well. But I also am very mindful of these new people coming into our industry that have just as much right to be there. But I know what you mean with the idea of, as an employer, like, you know, in a way, to me, it doesn't, you know, in a way, I kind of want to see people who, yeah, may have 20 years experience. I go, oh, they're experienced, right? But then someone new, I think, well, they're fresh. They've got a new perspective. So I sort of look at them in the same way. But you're right. We can scrutinize, can't we? Find out more, dig deeper in what have they done? What sort of visions do they see? Are they, do you really believe they're going to make an impact? And if they're new, maybe an employer has some sort of mentoring system, or some way of helping them so they don't remain static, because it's a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah.
responsibility, isn't there, on a fitness
It
professional
is.
with
It is. And
their
on that
ongoing.
note, I don't
Yeah,
necessarily think that lack of experience is at all excluding factor, because
yeah,
like yourself, I think I was about 19 with my first job in the
yeah,
sector. We all
yeah,
got to start there, and I think there can be it can be advantageous for an employer taking on a young prodigy who's like perhaps not worked in a gym before, because it's a clean slate. If they've got the right attributes and they've received the right education, it can be a very powerful thing to do, to take that young person on. And whether you're putting them through any apprenticeship training or in-house training or mentorship, it is a clean slate, and often that could be highly advantageous. So I wouldn't say
yes,
not necessarily experience should come massively into the mixer here. It's more so that base level of education. What has that young person got under their belt from their experience with a training provider? Who is it they studied with? Were they FITPRO endorsed? Was the
yeah,
provider an enhancing rated one? Because that gives that peace of mind. And I think it's just having those on the tick box sheet, rather than have they got a piece of paper that says level 3 personal training. And I think this is giant steps forward if we can start to really get that philosophy across the sector. And
absolutely.
don't get me wrong, I mean, there are gym chains out there. I mean, we work with a lot of gym chains, a lot of personal training management companies, etc. And there are some fantastic ones out there that are doing just this. Honestly, there are. There are
Absolutely.
some out there that are doing a lot of due diligence, that recognise what enhancing means, recognise the value of SIMSPA. It is going on. It's just we need to get it widespread so it's the norm, and that's the challenge.
Absolutely. Let's go on to our next one. So, what are some strategies that you feel have been really impactful in what you do that perhaps you could, speak about or touch on? Maybe there's even sort of some examples, case studies or something that you could let us know about.
I think one thing that we always make clear to our students is to celebrate failure. And what I mean by that is that if you're doing your personal trainer course and you get something wrong, celebrate that fact, because we've pointed it out to you, we've told you how to fix it, you've learned something, you've developed. And at first, that can be a bit of an alien concept. And a lot of students at first may take offense. Why have I been failed? Why is my practical submission not acceptable? Why is it that you've told me I've got to come back in and redo this and redo that? And we always say, look, it's okay. This is part of the process. This is a good thing. And I'd urge any provider to be the same with students. And don't get me wrong, many are, in that, we're not just happy ticking boxes.
Right,
We,
just they've
yeah,
done
we
that. It's not on a certificate of attendance.
exactly. It's
Right.
not, that's not our role as educators. We're not there just to say, oh, well, that looks all right, or we could probably justify that, we could probably slide that. No, we need to be working with our students and getting that philosophy where they know that it's not just okay to fail at something, but it's actually something you should be celebrating. Because if you've been referred with your work, you've learned something, you've been told how to fix it, you've then ironed out a potential mistake that you could have ended up making further down the line. And this is a philosophy that we have. And as I said, at first, sometimes it may be a bit alien to people to accept this, but this is very much what we always say. Um, there's a great quote by Elon Musk that says, if you're not failing, then you're not innovating enough. And I always use that quote, in life, really, in my career and everything. And that's the philosophy that we always have with our students. And also we say to our students as well, don't just submit a safe option piece of coursework. If we've asked you to do like a kind of a progressive training plan for a client, don't just do the most basic, simple one. Let's try within your scope of practice, of course, and within your confidence. Let's try and do something special. Let's try and push the boat out here. Let's try and do something a bit more adventurous. Yes, you may well get it wrong, but we will tell you got it wrong. We'll tell you how to fix it, and then you've developed, you've grown, rather than just submitting something that's just going to pass. So I think with this philosophy, where it's okay to get referred, it's okay to fail, because we're going to fix it. We're going to make you better. You're going to come back stronger as a result of it. And I think that very mindset, with regards to quality and standards, is something that we should all adopt in the sector. Do not be afraid to fail. You try, innovate, try your best, try
Yeah.
something new, try to do something differently or better. If you get it wrong, don't worry, because that's where we come in as the educators. We're there to then guide and say, right, this hasn't quite worked. Let's go back and look at it. Let's try it this way. Let's try it that way. And then there's that light bulb moment, and that's the impact of learning. And
Yes.
with that philosophy, we drive up standards, and that's why, at Study Active, I think we're very renowned for our quality. And, we receive lots of compliments from the gyms and employers that we work with, the quality of our graduates. And I think that's why they're not afraid to try something new. They're not afraid to fail and get the
Mm.
feedback and come back stronger. And that's an approach, I think, that, that anyone can adopt quite easily. And it's a very powerful mindset.
You're so right, and I th it's something that I had to kind of adopt, and learn that mindset, because I was, when I was younger, I just wanted to get everything right, which obviously meant that I cared for quality and excellence and stuff. But then, that in itself can become quite almost debilitating. And I've said to many people before, I'm a reformed perfectionist. You can't, not everything can be absolutely right. And I think sometimes you can, end up almost stopping progress if there's not the mindset that you talk about. Absolutely. So that's a real impactful thing. And, I think that, oh my God, some of the amazing moments I saw with our students when I was tutoring or assessing, often it was in assessing moments where somebody may have been referred, and then you saw them come back, and oh my God, it was like, you know, at first you could see the result for them. They were surprised, upset, you know, or understandably, they'd already put in a lot of effort. But then there was this sort of shake up moment, which is, I am smashing this out of the park now. And literally, it's like you saw a different person. And they needed that time. You know, they may have been nervous, that they may have not quite understood where they wanted to show themselves, but my goodness, I mean, some of the most goosebumpy moments I ever had was students coming back and doing something utterly significantly better. And then you see, then you go, now I see where you're going to go in this industry, because you've got that mindset, which is, you know, I'm not taking it personally. I'm now proving. And it was, you know, it, in a way, the times when I would tutor, it was nicer when there was those very obvious refers rather than those ambiguous ones where you, because it was like you could, you know, help. And yeah, that's a really impactful mindset for people to adopt. I love that. Yeah, I like it a lot.
Absolutely, yes. So it's I say it is a mindset and it can be adopted to anything. And I think using it in education is very powerful. And having that mindset will improve the
Yeah.
PT problem as a whole, because we're getting out of any kind of that will do mentality and oh, that's an
Yes.
iffy pass, but let's just pass it, because we're not doing them any favors there at all. I
No.
mean, it's like imagine a football coach coaching a team, and that coach wants that team to be the best versions of themselves that they can possibly be. The coach isn't going to say, well, that's all right, that will do, you know, that's enough for today. The coach is going to keep on at them all the time to get them to be the best they can be. And that's going to involve lots of failure along the way, lots of lessons, and lots of coming back
Absolutely.
stronger. And exactly what you just said there, Teresa, the most rewarding thing is seeing someone that's been down that path and has come up stronger. And then, do you know what? A lot of people do say thank you at that stage. They
They
say, you know,
do.
I'm very grateful for pointing that out, and they're celebrating the fact that they have learned a lesson and they have
Yeah.
improved and they are better for it as a result.
Yeah.
Whereas if that person was just tick box passed, they wouldn't have learned that lesson, and that could have led to mistakes further down the line once in the work environment.
And what sort of message are we giving to our students if we're just sort of letting them through, you know? Because
Mm,
then it's almost, you know, some of the the things about our industry is that we want to set them out for success, don't we?
mm,
You know, we don't want them, you know, going like having just scraped through and then hitting the real world of the fitness industry and thinking that they're not equipped, because they won't last long. And they shouldn't
exactly.
have to find their teeth, you know, because we've just sort of pushed them through as a, yeah,
It's
that'll do, you
it's
know.
not easy to qualify as a personal
No,
trainer, you know,
no,
not to do it properly. It's a tough task to do, but it's achievable, and that's where us as educators come into it.
yeah,
And I think the students that do the best, honestly, are the ones that come in and they basically say, you know, teach us, you know, they say, tell us what to do, tell us how we can improve. They ask questions, they're inquisitive.
curious.
If someone comes in and says, you know what, I know all of this already, can you just talk me through it? No, that's not how it works, because someone may know a lot about fitness for their own training, but it is quite different to then qualify as a personal trainer to be on the other side of the fence as such. So that's why I think, like, you know, coming in for a student's perspective, any my advice to any students to come in with that open, inquisitive mind. You know, don't come in thinking that, you know, you know it and you're going to blast through it. I mean, okay, you may know stuff, you may well know stuff, fine, but don't come in with that mindset. Come in that you're here to learn, you're here to develop, be
Yeah,
inquisitive, and then, you know, tackle the calls head on with the support of your tutors.
yeah,
And I think very much what I always say to our students is, you know, you're here to learn, not just to be certified. Now, obviously, you will be certified at the end of it when you demonstrate your competence, but education providers, we're not just certification stamps of approval. You know, there is a learning journey to go through, and the learners that buy into that, and, you know, the majority do, you know, fortunately, are the ones which then develop themselves and come out better the other side of it and then go on to do well within the sector. So I think having that open mindset towards learning is a very valuable attribute of a student.
love that. Yeah. And so we've, you know, talked in this webcast about some solutions, things that can make an impact. Also with you know, about things being static and So I'm going to give you a magic wand, right? What's the first thing that you are going to change if you could change in an instant? Because a magic wand, I believe, is quite quick. So if there's one thing you could choose, what
It
would
would
you
be
choose?
nice, Teresa, wouldn't it, to have a magic wand to make a problem go away? But there is no magic wand, so it's a case of if I my wish list would be, basically it's reiterating what I said earlier. I think it's the collective nature of the sector to set that new standard. This is the line in the sand. This is what we want from a PT, and to stick to it and to collectively do it. So we're all adhering to that. So there's a new line in the sand. This is what we want. This is what we're looking for. If people are coming to us way below this bar, we're going to refer them for further training somewhere. We're not going to just throw them onto the gym floor. This is our new standard. This is what we are sticking to. This is what we're looking for. We see the value of a FITPRO endorsed provider. We see the value of FITPRO enhancing. These are key attributes, key things we're looking for. And to have that line in the sand, to have that new normal as such, that new kind of acceptance level, and have that mindset, that is where we could make a real impact. Now, obviously, that's going to be difficult because that would mean less numbers coming through. But what good is high volume if they're leaving after a short period of time? So I think this is where, and also if we're getting the right PTs into the employment, they're going to stay. So the problem's going to take care of itself. So instead of fueling the problem continually, we're doing something to solve it. So that line in the sand, that kind of, this is the quality line, which side are you as such, that is what I would like to see,
Right.
more than a piece of paper.
Yeah, that's a smart answer. That's a smart answer because you didn't have the magic wand. So let's use the magic wand to make the line in the sand. That's smart, very smart. I like that. So, few last questions I'm going to check in with you. So, what inspires you to lead on quality? What inspires you? I mean, you said your little, quote there from Elon Musk. That's a sort of mindset, kind of thing. What are the things that sort of keep you adhering to this level of standard? What inspires you?
Well, it's passion, Teresa, really. It's passion for the sector. We are all custodians of the fitness sector. We are responsible for this. It's in our hands. We want to be, improving this and making sure this sector is a good place to be, a good place to work, a good place for people to come into, good place for the clients. And we've all got a role to play there. And I think being passionate about the sector that you're in is very important there. And anyone knows me knows that I'm very vocal about driving up standards in the industry. I'm very much, very passionate about what I do. And I know I've got some wonderful sector colleagues out there, too many to mention, who are on the exact same page. And there are some extremely good positive people out there who are in this for the same reason. We want this sector to be a good place. We care about this sector. Of course, we care about our own businesses. Of course we do. But we also care about the wider sector. And I think that's the key thing that inspires me each day, to know that I'm playing my part to make this sector a better place, alongside countless others with the same mindset and philosophy as myself.
Yeah, I agree with you very much so. It's for me, it is truly about passion, isn't it? And like, I don't think we could do it unless we really
Mm.
believed in it, honestly. And yeah, I really like that answer. And thank you for also saying there's countless other people, because there are so many people who are doing a absolutely sterling job, who are equally, also shouting from, I was going to say shouting from the parapet, and that's not the right the right saying, but they're saying this, they're beating the same drum, aren't they?
Absolutely, Teresa. It's certainly not just me and you. There are
Uh,
countless, too many to name, but anyone listening to this will know who you are as such. Are on the
Yes.
same page as us, and the sector is very fortunate to have such amazing people within it, and it's a stronger together approach.
Yes.
There are countless numbers of um, of staff and employees and business owners and personal trainers and students out there who all want to make this sector a better place. And if we keep working together, then hopefully we can take some strides towards that.
Yeah, really good. Yeah, I like that. So, okay, wrapping up our chat. Thank you, of course, James. There's some really smart answers in there, and so thank you. I think I obviously through me talking to you previously and seeing what you've written and how you show up in the industry, I know it to be true, and so thank you. So I just wanted to check in if there's anything that we haven't covered off that you think, oh, I'd really like to say this, or is there anything that you just want to say as a sort of a summary of our chat?
Well, I think, just to conclude this chat, if there are any aspiring fitness professionals out there that are perhaps watching this, considering a career in the sector, I'd say yes, please come into this sector. It is a fantastic sector. You can do well in this sector. It's extremely exciting. So I'd say to anyone considering taking a step into the fitness sector, do it. It's a fantastic place to work, but do it properly and go down the routes. Use what we've discussed in this podcast. Look at who you're studying with, what you're going to get from it, where you want to be. Think about you as an individual, not just I've got a piece of paper, but where do you need to be to make the impact you want? And as long as you're doing things properly, I hope this guidance in this podcast would help that, then there is, unlimited potential as to what you can achieve in this sector. It really is a wonderful place to be when it's all done properly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm with you on that. That's for sure. I mean, we've been in it for a long time, so it must be a good place, right? And I still find what I do so extremely rewarding, and I'm very glad for my place in the industry. It's been a long career, and when you see someone coming into it, and you think, oh, I really hope that you have the blessing of a wonderful, lovely career, and we make so much impact on people's lives. So it's a beautiful place to
That's what
work.
it's about, really, at the end of the day, isn't it? We're delivering UK Active's mission, we're getting people active, and ultimately we're all playing a role in that to make that happen.
Yeah, okay. So James, thank you. Where can they hear more from you, be in contact with you, with your business? How can people track you down?
Well, if anyone's considering becoming a personal trainer, do feel free to look us up, Study Active. Our website is studyactive.co.uk, and we have a very friendly team who will advise and guide on different options for you. But if any businesses want to connect with me, best way is find me on LinkedIn. I'm always up for a chat with anyone that has the right ideas about the wonderful industry that we work in.
Oh, amazing. Thanks, James. That's been amazing to chat to you. I'm sure there will be other things that come from this, but thank you for doing what you do so well. Thanks for sharing and collaborating. You're definitely somebody who does that. And I think, like you said, we all care about our businesses, but I really feel collaboration is, so very, very key. And I've heard you say so much on this webcast about working together and collectively doing that. And I want to sort of say, well, not sort of say, but to say thank you for, upholding that and stuff. So thank you so
Oh,
much, James.
absolutely, Teresa. We're all in this together. We're all in the same team.
We
So
are.
that's great. So it's been a pleasure
All
talking to
right.
you, and thank you for taking the time to speak to me and hear my views.
Absolute pleasure. We'll sign off just now. Thanks to everybody listening in. As James said, you can track him down. So please do on LinkedIn, or of course, check out the website that they mentioned previously before. Thanks again. And if you are going to be joining the industry alongside us and many other brilliant people, all the very best. Thanks, everybody.